pointing out things that don't come.
Welcome back to the very incomplete railway. Following on from the original video that I made, one or two people have asked some questions. One of which was how did we build the bridges across the doorway in the room? So just going around a little bit, and you see the bridges here. So I thought I'd do a separate little video just to explain how those were constructed. Originally, the idea was to have one large bridge, which was a pull-out section of board and had the two different levels. If you have a look here, you can see that the two tracks were at different levels and they were both built into the same bridge. But that was a bit cumbersome and not very easy to line all four tracks up together. So I thought a simpler solution was required. So what we came up with was the idea of using these simple plywood sections, each with its own two pieces of track on. These would just slot into place across the doorway. So I wanted a simple way that we could do that, and this is what we came up with. Underneath the bridge there's two pieces of wood which are screwed, the bottom one screwed to the board and the top one is screwed to the bridge. So to locate those in place, underneath there is a brass peg. Brass peg is the same diameter as the hole through the centre of the washers. Now each washer is one line of the track above it. So you can see for each bridge we need 4 washers which have got the wires from the rails soldered to them. Okay. The lower piece of wood, which is also got 4 washers on, has got 4 wires which are then correspondingly soldered to the track above. And that means that each time we put the bridge down in place, in theory, we should get an automatic connection with the tracks. And one of the ideas I had when we first started setting up this was to enable these washers that are fixed in place to be slightly sprung, and you can see that these are actually free to move. The idea being that when the track bridge was put into place, these would just sit against the washers above. Originally we were going to use some kind of a spring, and one idea that I had was to use these small springs which are the back of switches, the small micro switches we all use in our control panels, and I was going to bend that up and make it into a kind of spring. Didn't work too well, and in the end I took some of them out. There is one still in place there underneath that one. And the idea of that was just to give the connection a little bit of a spring as it went into place. Of course the other end of the bridge also needed a washer in place so that you could locate that end of the bridge, but it hasn't got any wires connected to it. It's just a washer and then a similar peg on the bridge. So if we lift the camera up a little bit, you can see there's a washer with a peg, and it just locates the bridge in place. Nice and simple. So once you've built the bridge and come to lay the track across it, you need to be able to locate that track in place and make sure that it doesn't move when you put the bridge in place. So the easiest way I've found is to use some screws, which you can see here, and they're screwed into the board either side of the gap, and when you lay the track across, pare away the sleepers so that you can lay the track in one piece, solder the screws to solder the track to the screws, and then once it's all fixed into place, then go through with the track saw and cut it, and that way you'll make sure that the track is nicely aligned with the next section. Seems to work very well for me, and I'm quite happy with it at the moment. One of the advantages of using screws, of course, is that you can, when you put them in, you can adjust them for height so that they touch the bottom of the rails and line up perfectly with the track that's running up to it. So also one thing that I'm considering doing with this bridge is to kind of make it into a steel girder bridge, something similar to the birdcage bridge on the Great Central in Rugby. Eventually one day I will get some girder work up the side of the bridge and just make it look a little bit more permanent. When these bridges are taken away so that we can gain access to and from the room, they're actually stored in this little cupboard, this little shelf unit in the fascia of the layout, just to hide everything away.